Welcome everybody to the Zoom meeting for April for the Boston chapter. And as you well know, of course, tomorrow is opening day in Boston. So keep an eye out for that, because I had just noticed, I had just received an email not too long ago that said that there are tickets still available for the game tomorrow, which I was a little bit surprised that they were still offering tickets. That's not something we normally have seen. But what we're going to do tonight is we have a very interesting book that is has been put out by the Boston Braves Historical Association. We have Bob Brady here to tell us all about it. A very interesting book about Boston's Ballpark Broadsides. We'll get down into it a little bit closer and everything. But anyway, it's if you remember all of the old pictures back in the mid 20th century, especially, where all the advertisers, those huge advertisers that were on the walls around the ballparks. Bob has done a wonderful compilation of these broadsides in both Braves Field and also in Fenway Park, both Boston iconic locations. And it's a very interesting look to see what was being advertised. And the one thing that really got me about it, the thing that impressed about it, was how big and loud all of these advertisements are. And I would think that they'd be very distracting, but I'd like to find out from Bob just how people did tend to look at them, if they were very distracting. We don't see this type of advertising in ballparks anymore. And perhaps we will talk about that as we go on. So I do want to introduce Bob Brady of the Boston Braves Historical Association. He keeps the Braves alive in Boston, and he is going to keep it alive tonight too. So come on board with us, Bob.
Would that be the world champion Braves?
Well, well, let's see. What year would that have been?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
All right. Well, I thank you very much for the introduction. Let me just say before I jump into this, when you talk about the ads and how distracting they might be, when you take a look at that cover and you see all those ads in glorious color, when you go to Fenway Park tomorrow, I challenge you, if you think that's distracting, take a look at the ads now at Fenway Park, and also the fact that they rotate, so that in that 1948 photo is the tip of the iceberg of what you're going to be exposed to at Fenway Park. And in addition to that, if you're watching it on television, they have a digital way of rotating the ads that you don't see on the park, but you see it on your screen. So I submit to you that what was in the past and what is in the present now is not that different. But in any event, you mentioned opening day tomorrow for the Red Sox, and more power to them starting the season. But I also want to mention to you, tomorrow is the 70th anniversary of the last opening day at Braves Field on April 15th, 1952. And they played the Dodgers and they lost 3-2. And they had a crowd, and I use that term loosely, of 4,694 attending that event. And the other thing that I would ask you is perhaps part of a challenge or just a way to sort of recognize the situation. That opening day at Braves Field took 2 hours and 7 minutes. So if you have a stopwatch, your smartphone or your Apple Watch or whatever, why don't you put that on at Fenway after the first pitch and see what 2 hours and 7 minutes take you tomorrow at Fenway Park. And I submit you probably aren't going, you aren't going to get in past the fourth inning or so. But in any event, I digress. Thank you so much for inviting me to this presentation. I am the president of the Boston Braves Historical Association. I'm also a long-term member of SABR, and I enjoy working on historical research for both organizations. Now, the pandemic and its 2 years of isolation produced two things with me. First of all, as you can readily see, I have a House of David baseball team type beard, And also, I finally put together the book that we're going to talk about. As I mentioned, and I think maybe on this call, there will be some members that are dual members of the BBHA and SABR who have received this book. And also, we have worked closely with SABR, members of the BBHA who are joint members, on a number of publications. And I can point out, for example, Sponsane and Teddy Ballgame, the Braves Field Book, and the Miracle Braves of 1914. We were founded back in 1992. And over the years, we sponsored annual player fan reunions and Braves Field tours through 2008. And at that point, we ran out of ball players due to advanced age and infirmity. And sadly, the last living Boston Brave was Del Crandall, who passed away in 2021. We still have a few minor leaguers still around. And thanks to Len Levin, who keeps us informed on their passing, we're able to memorialize their lives in newsletters. Today, what the BBHA does is it dedicates itself to the presentation of the memory of the Boston Braves through newsletters, through the reproduction of historical mementos and publications such as the book we're going to be talking about very, very shortly. The book itself was distributed late last month, free to all members of the Boston Braves Historical Association. And we were able to do that due to the generosity of a group of our members who we call the Royal Rooters, who basically provide funds above and beyond our modest dues. So we're very grateful for that. Now, this book, Baseball Broadsides, is professionally produced. It's soft cover. It's printed on high quality paper. It runs 105 pages and is profusely illustrated, 14 panoramas illustrated throughout. There are 11 of Braves Field and there are 3 of Fenway Park. Now, allow me to take you back into a little bit of the history, how this came about. The idea came from a winning bid I put on a collection of black and white photographs that were offered by a major memorabilia auction house back in, I believe it was around 1996. And what did I acquire as part of that auction? Well, I obtained sets of black and white panoramic photographs of the outfield advertising at Braves Field and Fenway Park. For Braves Field, the years that I received were 1934, 1936, 1940 to 44, 1946 to 48. And I might add as an aside here, when I'm talking about Braves Field, during certain of those years, it wasn't Braves Field and the team playing there wasn't the Braves, it was the Bees. And the formal title of the ballpark back then was National League Baseball Field, and it was nicknamed the Hive or the Beehive. Now, for Fenway Park, my purchase included the years 1937 to 38 and 1946. 1946 was the last season of the Yawkey era where large ads appeared on the Fenway Park left field wall. Where did they come from, these photographs? Well, the photographs came from the files of the Harry M. Stevens Company and reflected its concessionaire business. Some of you are probably aware of the perhaps it's an apocryphal story of how Harry M. Stevens, on a cold day at the Polo Grounds, decided to take what he called a dachshund sausage, put it between 2 slices of bread, and created the hot dog to sell to cold fans. He also capitalized, allegedly, on creating the store card when numerals were placed on the backs of baseball players' uniforms, and he would market it based on the fact that you couldn't tell a player without a scorecard. Now, I should note that in addition, in this auction that I didn't bid on, there were panoramic photographs from the Stevens collection for Yankee Stadium, the Polo Grounds, and Ebbets Field. So they're out there as well as virtual time capsules. Now, apparently, such files were disposed of after Stevens was acquired by Aramac, I think back in around 1994, and Aramac just did a clean sweep of the files. And of course, a lot of folks that collect memorabilia are quick to pick these things up, dumpster dive or whatever. Now, why were these photographs taken? They were taken in order to provide the advertisers of confirmation of the placement of their signs and their designs that they had ordered from the company. So Stevens went ahead and hired billboard companies who in turn would hire a photographer to take pictures of the signage that they would send back to Stevens' company, and Stevens' company would in turn provide these pictures as evidence to their various customers. Now, I mentioned that they're panoramic, but let me qualify that a bit. They're panoramic in nature, but they're not true singular images, but segments of photographs. They are usually 4 in number, perhaps a little more, it depends on the particular images they were trying to capture. In the book, we try to link or stitch these photos together to produce a sweeping image. But since this was basically a commercial venture, there was no intent to capture the entire panorama. If it didn't include the billboard, they would not picture that particular element, which really isn't that crucial because those gaps really didn't reveal a heck of a lot. But in essence, I just wanted to, let you know that the definition of panorama of the photos that appear in this book are not necessarily what you commonly know as panorama, especially now with modern technology and the smartphones where you can just do a sweep and you have a single image. The photographs in this book yield really a treasure trove of both ballpark and cultural information. Each yearly narrative that I have in here may include game accounts, related historical events, and each includes a page describing the particular ballpark billboard. How long did this take me to do? Well, rudimentary drafts of this book go all the way back to 2003. And over the years, depending upon my employer, it was composed on a variety of word processing software. Started out in Multimate, migrated to Microsoft Word, ended up in Apple Pages. And me, not being the most competent person with a computer, suffered a couple of computer crashes that totally wiped out the book, and I had to start it over again. So it was typically a rainy day project that started and stopped many times. So COVID-19 basically provided me enough protracted rainy days, and then another fortunate event occurred. My niece married the son of a Cape Cod print shop owner, which provided me with access to necessary design and technical skills that I don't have and the association couldn't afford. So now we have sort of a family relationship that came to the benefit. Now, fortunately, this particular print shop located in Yarmouth is familiar with baseball publications because it annually produces materials such as schedules, programs, and other paper ephemera for the Cape Cod League. And in fact, right now, they're hard at work producing such materials. So why don't we, Bill, jump to an example, 1934 at Braves Field.
Let's try it.
Let's try it.
I've never done this before with sharing the screen and all, so let's just see what happens here. Let's see. In there. There we go. Does everybody see that okay?
I don't see anything, Bill.
Oh, that's exciting.
You have 2 people in their mid to late 70s trying to do this kind of stuff.
I can always hold it up on my screen. Oh, here we go. Here we go. Yay!
No, he's at Fenway Park at the moment.
Yeah, right. Wait a minute. It just went this way and that. Here it comes back.
There we go. We're getting there, folks.
Beautiful. Yeah. Ah, beautiful.
There's the book cover. I could tell you a story about that, but let's get into the innards of the book first. Now we're going to show, if things work out, 5 basic panoramas, 4 of Braves Field and 1 of Fenway Park. And basically, when you see the format, this is 1934. When you see the format, it's pretty similar as we go through the years. So it really isn't necessary to go year by year by year. Plus, we just don't have the time. Now, in 1934, the Braves Field image, and this is the year before the Babe Ruth fiasco. The image shows that the park had a temporary 26-row outfield seating area. And Gene Mack of the Globe called these the synthetic bleachers. They supplemented the concrete and steel 2,000-seat permanent right field bleachers that was dubbed the jury box due to its sparse population that resembled a courthouse gallery from time to time. Now, at the time of the construction of Braves Field in 1915, tribe owner James Gaffney decided not to extend the permanent bleachers due to cost considerations. Now, when we go through these, and you can flip to the second slide of 1934, Bill, when you get a chance. Okay, there we go. As you know from such books like Phil Lowry's Green Cathedrals, the outfield dimensions of Braves Field changed from time to time due to the fact that originally Gaffney had favored a dead ball approach in its design. In other words, the ball should remain inside the park. The photos in this book, as we go through year after year, illustrate the changing distances in the outfield markers, as well as showing shifting foul lines at the park, trying to address the evolution to the live ball era. Now, one of the longstanding advertisers at Braves Field was Harge Partridge Company. They billed themselves here in this particular photograph as the athletic outfitter to the Red Sox. In later years, the billboard would say that they were the outfitter to the Braves and to the Bees. Now, I might note here, you'll see on this particular one in the corner, the Lifebuoy sign. This is a ubiquitous ad that first appears here and was replicated many, many times at many ballparks, including Fenway. Lifebuoy soap would boast that the Braves or other teams that they sponsored used their product, which would produce a fan's retort, but they still stink, which for many of these photographs was true both for the Red Sox and the Braves. Interesting to note, unfortunately, you can't see it close up here in these images, but again, when we talk about culture and evolution, along the wall, you would see advertisers' phone numbers, and they consisted of a word and only 4 digits. And growing up in Dorchester, I can remember my phone number was Blue Hills, followed by several digits. And now we're in an entirely numerical world. Now, you don't see it in this particular photograph, but I was able to discern in many of these panoramas the exact date and time that the photograph was taken. And the Rosetta Stone, if I may use that term, that I was able to use, in addition to the fact that the photographer wrote the year on the back of the photographs, was the hand-operated scoreboard atop of the jury box, which we'll see in another photograph. Because it was the practice of the ball club to leave up the previous day's home and visitors lineup uniform numbers until the next day. They didn't take them down until they were getting ready for the next day's game. So that gave me the information as to the lineup, a year, and going through the Globe newspaper archives, Retro Sheet, Sporting News, and other sources, I was able to identify the date of many of these images. And this allowed me in a number of the panoramas to write up the previous day's game account that was represented on the scoreboard. Now, why don't we, Bill, jump to 1936? And again, you're not going to see a significant change here. What you can't see because the image isn't big enough But looking at the advertisement, in 1936, according to an ad, you could get a 1-pound steak in a restaurant for $1, a quart of gin for $1.50, and a pack of cigarettes for 15 cents. Now, in 1936, this is when the Braves had become the Bees, and Braves Field's title was neutered to National League Baseball Field. That came about when the successor syndicate, headed by Bob Quinn, decided to hold a contest to rename the Braves to try to get away from its past abysmal history. And the name that was selected by a panel of sports writers, Boston sports writers and the like, was the Bees, which never really took hold. But from this point through 1940, that's what we had in terms of a nickname for Boston's National League franchise. Now, in this particular shot, when I stand here and I look at this, I think about who was playing on the field and what was going on that day. Now, interestingly, the jury box scoreboard, and you can go to the next image, Bill. The jury box scoreboard shows the results of a May 2nd Cardinals-Bees game where the Braves lost 3-2. Now, over on the American League side on that day, there was a game between the Tigers and the Yankees. And what the scoreboard doesn't show and isn't capable of showing, that was in that day in Detroit, the game marked the absence of Lou Gehrig in the lineup, breaking his 2,130 consecutive game day record. So you've got a little bit of history standing out in this field as to what was going on elsewhere in the world of baseball. Now, what I'm going to do is sort of jump through several of the panoramas without showing the pictures, because the field looks pretty close to what you're seeing on the screen. And we didn't have the technology, obviously, Bill and I, to engage in this, and also time constraints. So if we go to 39, which we're not going to show, that panorama is interesting because it shows the view that a 19-year-old Red Sox rookie outfielder would have seen in his first Boston appearance in a preseason exhibition game on April 15th. That rookie was Ted Williams. He then went on the next day to make his Fenway Park debut in the continuance of the annual City Series exhibition. Now, looking forward into the next era, 1940 to 41, and I'm sorry, I sort of jumped the gun on the Lou Gehrig situation. Let me go back to 1936 for a second. The 1936 image that we have here also reflects the first All-Star game in Boston. This is what the players and the fans would have seen at the 1936 All-Star game. Unfortunately, it wasn't a sellout. Only 25,000 showed up. And this was due to a misperception that the game had been sold out in advance, maybe like Fenway Park tomorrow, who knows. But it also marks the first time the National League won an All-Star game, right here at Braves Field, or the Beehive, in 1936. So if I go on to 1941, which again, we're not going to get into, they had 5 large alcoholic beverage ads in the outfield walls. And my particular opinion is that the team's performance under Casey Stengel, where they ended up in 7th place, probably was enough to drive the fans to drink, hence the appropriateness of the ads. Now, in 1941, we have sort of a transitionary period, because early into the season, on April 29th, the Braves, the Bees stockholders got together and they decided to change the name back to the Braves, and hence it became Braves Field again. But interestingly, if you were to look at some of the signage, it was too late for the billboard makers to change the advertisement from Bees to Braves. And also because the ball club wasn't awash in funds, they had existing stock, stationery and programs that had Bees emblazoned on it. So this kind of causes a confusion among some people as to when the Bees reverted to Braves. It was in fact in 41, but there are materials that still pronounce the team's name as Bees because of that. Now, if you were to stand in the outfield in 1941, you would be witnessing the pasture of 3 future Hall of Famers who appeared in Braves uniforms in the twilight of their careers that year. Big and Little Poison Wainers and the Earl of Snohomish, Earl Averill. He was the first Earl of Snohomish. The second Earl of Snohomish came to Boston in 1947, and that was Earl Torgerson. Again, jumping forward to 1940, which we're not showing, World War II was noted prominently in the outfield signage. You had the advertisements urging the purchasing of war bonds. Also, you note in the 42 panorama, there was a shift in the left field foul line from the previous season. And it's apparent because of the movement of a foul pole and the fact that we now have a billboard in foul territory, which we didn't have previously. The 42 ballpark, again, if you were to take a look at that image and take a look at it closely, it was the site of some very notable home team accomplishments. Tommy Holmes' rookie campaign occurred that year, and unlike his claim to fame as the hero of the right field jury box, he was their center fielder. Paul Wainer hit his 3,000th hit there. Jim Tobin, the pitcher, knuckleball pitcher, had a 3-homer game. And their catcher, Ernie Lombardi, went on to win the National League batting crown. Interesting to note, when you are able to look at the signage, after Paul Wainer recorded his 3,000 hit, in an interview, he said that his eyes had gotten so bad that when he stood in the batter's box, he couldn't read the signs in the outfield. One other interesting fact from that particular season, we once had Lenny Murillo as a guest at one of our reunions, and he was a longtime Cubs shortstop. Now, in that season, Lenny had a very embarrassing event happen. He was awaiting the birth of his son, and he went on to make 4 errors in a single inning at Braves Field. And that resulted in his son, Lenny Jr., bearing the nickname Boots. Now we'll go on to 43, 44, and Bill, can you pop up 1943? Okay, that's good. Again, patriotism was prominent on the wigwam's walls in 43 and 44. In 43, J.A. Cigars featured portraits of a soldier, a sailor, and Uncle Sam, urging the fans to buy war bonds and war stamps. Carstairs Whiskey sought to assure the customers that wartime restrictions didn't prevent the adequate supply of its libation. And Grape Nut cereal advertised that its consumption would keep the U.S. strong. This particular season, 1943, was Casey Stengel's swan song, and he got a late start because, as many of you might recall, he was struck by an automobile in Kenmore Square just before the start of the season and was hospitalized for a while. This prompted the legendary Hub sports writer, Colonel Dave Egan, to nominate the offending cab driver as the man who did the most for Boston baseball that season. And he further suggested giving him a day at Braves Field. That didn't happen. Now, inadvertently, as you see on the screen, when the Stevens hired photographer was taking these photographs, he inadvertently captured some workers lounging on a break in the jury box. Hopefully it was a break. You saw the second picture, Bill, as a close-up. There we go. This is like when you do Google Maps, and like in my brother's case, you take a look at it and you see that he was captured in that particular photo. Not pictured is 1944, which continued the wartime references. For example, Lifebuoy soap claimed to be the top choice of our fighting men. J.A. Cigars proclaimed that its tobacco product produced over here made the boys happy over there. Old Overholt Whiskey urged attendees to back the attack and purchase extra war bonds. Now, I've been told by some folks, old timers, I'm saying old timers myself, but in any event, people who had actually gone to the game, that they had nicknamed Old Overholt Old Overcoat because of the quality of the beverage. Now, this particular season, 44, also knuckleballer Jim Tobin pitched the no-hitter here against the Dodgers on April 27th. And ironically, Brooklyn's Paul Wainer, who had been released by the Braves, was the only person to reach base, and he did it twice on bases on balls. Tobin again pitched an abbreviated no-hitter at the ballpark on June 22nd. It was a game shortened to 5 innings due to darkness. 1944 was the year also that the 3 little steam shovels, Rugomani and Perini, took over control of the Boston Braves. Now, again, leaving this picture up and jumping to 1946, the thing that really stands out in 1946 when you look out into the outfield is that there are new images out there, new structures. What are they? Light towers. The light towers for night baseball. These towers lasted until 1997, when during a spring windstorm, one of them toppled over, and Boston University felt it was wise to replace them all at Nickerson Field before any more of them collapsed. Now, the first regular night game was played in Boston at Braves Field on May 11th. According to the information I have, there were 768 bulbs that drew over 112,000 volts and were said to produce an illumination that was said to be equivalent to 4 times that of the average American living room. They also had neon lighting on the foul poles. Now, in addition to that, the Braves adopted special reflective sateen uniforms for evening tilts. The Dodgers also did the same, and you'll see these pictured in photographs in various periodicals and in, I forget what the name of the uniform book is, but it's there as well. The jury box was upgraded in 46 with the addition of electric light bulbs that indicated ball strikes, outs, hits, and errors. Now, not shown in this panorama because it didn't swing far enough, because there weren't any ads in that vicinity, was the area where the seats that had uncured green paint resided, that led to the infamous green paint day, where patrons received green stain on their clothing on April 16th. Also notable during this year, this was the debut of Billy Southworth managing the team, and also the advent of the classic Tomahawk jersey. Now, at the field, and if you have this particular DVD or you acquire it in the future, you'll get to see 1946 Braves Field in black and white, because during the season, the team filmed there to create a promotional film that they used the following off season. It was called Take Me Out to the Wigwam. And with 46 and World War II drawn to a close, the advertisers sort of shifted gears a little bit, and Shenley and Seagram's on their billboards assured that their products were pre-war quality, which raises the question, well, what were they during the war if they're returning to pre-war quality? Also, you'll observe in the 46 panoramas, the return of America's love affair with automobiles, with evidenced by 2 competing Chevrolet dealership ads on the background. So 1947, again, we're not showing it because there was only one significant element that I want to bring to your attention. In the background, beyond the outfield wall, is evidence of a notorious problem that adversely affected patrons of Braves Field. You'll see a noxious cloud of dark smoke that you can observe wafting toward the park from behind the left field wall in back of a Coca-Cola ad. This was coal soot coming from locomotives from the large Boston and Albany railroad yard, and the cinders were carried from the wind off of the Charles River onto patrons at the stands. Now, also, this closeness of the railroad led to apocryphal tales of home runs hit out of the park, allegedly landing onto moving rail cars, resulting in clouts traveling remarkable distances. Now, also during this season, the Braves filmed another promotional film. This time it was the Major's first full color promotional film called The Braves Family. And it too is available commercially on DVD. And it also will give you an additional perspective of the field. But now let's resume with our panoramas with pictures of 1948, where we have some dramatic changes. This is the black and white version of what appears on the cover. Now, 1948, as you can see here, marked the debut of Boston baseball's first electromechanical scoreboard in left field. It was 68 feet tall. And it's the granddaddy of today's mega boards. If you look closely, you can see on the board that there is a worker on a scaffold inserting the names of opposing ball clubs for the upcoming day's games. This caused the helpful jury box scoreboard, what I had called my Rosetta Stone, to fall into disuse. And it was converted into an advertising space that would feature a large package of Chesterfield cigarettes with their ABC legend, always buy Chesterfield. Now there's one billboard that obviously stands out here if you take a look at it, and that's the one for Narragansett beer. Shades of Ebbetsfield's famous Abe Stark hit sign windsuit billboard. The brewery provided a target and asked batters and fans to hit the spot. However, based on my research, unlike the Brooklyn billboard, I can't find any determination of a reward for a successful clout. And I suspect that liquor laws might have prevented any type of alcoholic beverage giveaway. I contacted Narragansett, and in fact, I provided them a photograph of that. And at one time they had it on their website, but Narragansett has changed hands as well. And they had no information to discuss why that target appeared there. Also, in perusing the 48 ads, you see something else, another advent of evolution, the advent of television and television sets being advertised. Now, if we go through the next two segments of 48, okay, that one, then we can go to the next one. Okay, here we have the last segment in our panorama in 1948. And this is important for a couple of reasons. This particular area in the Braves field outfield was the site of their last hurrah, and also it marked their sad goodbye. On opening day 1949, out by the flagpole, a large 1948 National League pennant was raised in an opening day ceremony there. And on that very same spot, on April Fool's Day, 1953, a funeral pyre of season tickets fell under the torch. Supposedly there were 1.27 million tickets that were burned that day. However, I know for a fact that some did survive, because I do, in the Braves archives, possess a full 1953 ticket. So as you would suspect, some of the tickets were taken as souvenirs behind the backs of the officials. Now the question here is the large scoreboard. Whatever happened to it? Well, the scoreboard ended up traveling to Kansas City and was used to upgrade their ballpark, Municipal Stadium, to welcome the Philadelphia Athletics to Missouri. After that, I haven't been able to find out where it went. I suspect it went to a scrap heap. Okay, let's now move on to Fenway Park. And what we're looking at now is 1946. But let me quickly talk a little bit about the ads that appeared for the 3 panoramas that we had. Given those years at Fenway, unlike Braves Field, there were only 3 huge ads that appeared on the left field wall. Now, in addition to that, atop of the center field bleachers surrounding an analog clock, there annually appeared gasoline ads. And there was an ad for the Saucony Pegasus and the Tidal Flying A. So what we see here and what we see in the 3 panoramas are Calvert Whiskey and Gem Razors. They were perennial advertisers. And on the 3rd panel, in terms of the panoramas that I have, they alternated between Lifebuoy soap and Botany ties. Now, if you look closely, high atop the scoreboard, you see then state-of-the-art conical megaphone-like public address systems. How effective they were remains to be seen. Also, you can't see it here, but you do not have the Morse code dot dashes that were on the scoreboard borders for Tom Yawkey and his wife. They emerged in 1947 after Yawkey decided to eliminate the ads on the left field wall. Also, remember, this is 1946, and what you don't see in the background are light towers. That's because Fenway Park did not have night games and it was not electrified in 46. They went to electrification in 1947. Now, also missing in my 1937 and 38 panoramas, but what is present here in 1946, and Bill, you can sweep over to a little bit further. What you
I just wanted to say
Go ahead.
one thing, Bob.
Yeah.
Look under the 315 mark in the left field corner. You can see that there's a slight incline of the
Yeah.
turf.
Yeah, we get a chance to blow it up.
Yeah.
Okay, you can go a little bit further on this one.
You want me to go to the next one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because what I want to point out here is that in 37 and 38, the bullpen was not present. It was created in 1940 to shorten the distance to help out sluggers like Ted Williams, and that area got the nickname Williamsburg. Now, go ahead. Somebody say something. Oh, okay. I have a little bit of a speculation here. If you want to go back, Bill, to the original first panel, as to why perhaps Tom Yawkey decided to paint over and create the Green Monster. If you look at these ads, you could create a story here. You see a showering man preparing to date a sexually clad woman in the next panel, who is making a suggestive comment over the telephone, and their liaison, so to speak, will feature Calvert Whiskey. Perhaps that was the final straw where he said, paint it all over, we're done. And of course, back in 46, Boston still had a city censor, and banned in Boston was something that did in fact occur. Other than that, in 1946, the Braves played here on April 28th because of the wet paint incident. They decided to come to Fenway Park to play a game while the paint was drying over at Braves Field. Now, again, if you look at this panorama, remember that the 1946 All-Star game came here, and this is what they would have seen on July 9th. And at that game, we know Ted Williams hit 2 home runs, one of which was off of Rip Sewell's ethos pitch. Also, unfortunately, the Red Sox, in preparing for the World Series on October 1st, I believe it is, decided to play an exhibition game. And that was the game where Ted Williams got hit on the elbow. And some speculate that his mediocre performance and ultimately the Red Sox losing to the Cardinals played a role. That game played a role in that. Also, when we're talking about this particular shot, bear in mind that the World Series game that was played here in 46 was the first World Series game at Fenway Park since September 11th, 1918. So that is sort of a summary, a capsule, lengthy, albeit, but there's much, much more in the book in detail. And what I'll now do is pick up a Gansett and I'll hit the spot. Thank you for your attention, and thank you for your patience.
Oh, Bob, that was absolutely fascinating. I mean, especially that last one with those huge posters that are up on the wall. I mean, gem, the whole bit. I mean, good grief. It's talk about panoramic views. I mean, but it is interesting to see what the products were that were advertised. It's cigarettes, alcohol, and soap.
You also look at the gem ads, razor blade ads, urging you to prevent the 5 o'clock shadow, which now seems to be a fashion statement.
I know, really. Honestly, God, it's just amazing. I mean, so many liquor ads and so many. I mean, and then the one there on the Coca-Cola, I like. Ask the boy. Yeah. The boy. That's just wonderful. Oh. So my contribution for that era that you had there is it's a picture behind me here. It's a picture of Fenway Park. Okay. And it is it states on the bottom of here that it's the Red Sox home opener, snowed out. Now, right now outside, it's raining outside my house right now here in Mudville. But the date on this photograph is April 14, 1953.
Yeah.
So,
no, it was miserable out at Braves Field, which was another reason why the attendance was low. It was the equivalent, like in terms of my experience, of attending a night game in April at Fenway Park. Just absolutely miserable, bone chilling.
Well, I can think of a matter of fact, it was the last opening day that I went to. So that's a couple of years, that would have been 2019. I was up in the bleachers and it was freezing. I mean, it was downright cold. The wind coming in from it must have been coming in from the harbor because it was coming right down our necks. I was up in the bleachers. And I can think of more cold opening days than I can think of warm ones by a long shot.
Yeah, and the sad thing now is that like the April days, some of them are really lovely, but most of the games now are at night when it's miserable.
Yeah.
Why I gave up my season tickets.
Well, and I can remember game 2, the day after the opener, that I did attend, and this was been probably around 2006, I think it was 2005 or 6, and it was so cold they called the game. They delayed it and delayed and delayed it, and it was mostly rain. I don't know why they just didn't stop. But by the time I left, it was about 9:30. I think that they called the whole thing off. It was snowing. It was actually snow. so it certainly did happen. It was about the same time of the month, of course, because it would be early April. So it can happen, although they say tomorrow's going to be around 60, but still there's going to be a breeze. So
just wait for the following night games and
I know, really. So at least it should be slightly merciful tomorrow. Better than today. But and I think the rain has stopped. So, But yeah, I mean, I always thought this was rather remarkable. I kind of liked it because it's an ironic photograph. Opening day, Fenway Park, and it looks like there's a couple of inches of snow on the field, so it could happen. So
It's advertised for shovelers.
right, yeah, right. So anybody, does anybody else have any opening day remembrance of some sort?
Adam had a question in the chat. He asked about the megaphones on top of the wall there. If a baseball hit the megaphone, was it ruled a home run? I imagine it was because it was on top of the wall.
Yeah, well, and even at that point, I don't recall seeing a ladder that, of course, is still there.
Yeah.
And of course, that's another what is it? Another special situation at Fenway Park, which you don't see in another stadium and everything. But that I think it's the only ladder. It's the only ladder that is within the playing field in any major league ballpark in this country. And the other one is still, I guess, that Fenway Park still has the only wooden seats in a ballpark in the United States. So
that ladder is in play. Obviously, if a ball hits the ladder, it can take a strange bounce off of it, and it never seems to happen. I can't remember it ever happening.
No, I don't recall ever seeing it happen. No.
I remember seeing the grounds crew come out there, put a regular ladder up to that ladder, climb up on top of the wall when it was netting up there, and take out all the baseballs that were hit up there during batting practice. They did that immediately before every game.
Well, yeah, and that's what it was. And I guess because Boston is so strong on tradition, that we no longer needed the ladder to get up there, but we don't move things like that. We don't touch those things.
And obviously the advertisements are coming back onto the walls. There's 5 of them on the current. I was over there yesterday to see some of the new things that they've installed. And there, again, as last year, there are 5 advertisements, a couple of them for charities, but on the left field wall.
Okay, yeah, because there was one before. Yeah, I know, but much more probably discreet art-wise than gem blades.
Yeah.
I love it. It is just it's so perfect. So, and let's see, any other questions that we have? Let's see.
I think an obvious question, Bob, is that you anticipated is if anybody wanted to get a copy of this book.
Yeah, that's the other question. Yeah. That was a question that came up even before tonight. That somebody was quite.
Let me put it this way. This was basically subsidized, as I said earlier, by our Royal Rooters with the intention that this would be distributed to the membership.
Right.
I did ask that extra copies be printed, some of which would be in case a book was lost or destroyed or damaged or something like that, but also to have a supply on hand for new members, and then for some extra copies to, for people that were, sincerely interested. And I would say SABR members would be in that group. We have no intention of becoming a bookseller to the general public. We don't want to do that. So at the present time, all the materials are down on the Cape, and I haven't gotten the final invoice nor account of what they have left over. But as soon as I'm able to get that kind of information, I'll be able to make a call as to what might in fact be available. And of course, in this instance, for those outside of the BBHA, I would have to price the book to recover the costs that the association. This is we're a nonprofit organization, and every cent gets plowed back into the historical preservation of the Boston Braves. But I can do this if anybody wants to somehow get in touch. I don't want to advertise on SABR. I don't know whether it's appropriate or not, but I'm on the SABR directory, or Joanne or someone else can just let me know, and then I will get in touch with those people. Just mention that you're a SABR member or you attended this meeting, and I will keep you on a list and let you know when they become available, if they become available, and what the pricing would be. And also, if anybody's interested in joining,
Exactly.
I would say,
Yeah.
again, I would say that the book would be, a membership benefit for those, I would say, into, the next few months until the supply is in fact exhausted. I wish I could be more specific, but at the moment, I just
You know
don't
what?
have necessary information.
It was made for, you made it clear at the beginning, it was produced for the membership.
Yeah.
Right.
Probably the best way to find out about future availability would be to join. As you
There
have
you
heard
go.
Bob talk, it's kind of fascinating to look back really 70 years from now to
Yeah.
when were two Major League Baseball teams in Boston, and you could walk from one park to the other very easily.
Yeah, speaking of that, Bill, you might recall, and some of the other folks that are also joint members of the BBHA, this is our second membership-free, complimentary book. The previous one was called Boston Braves and Red Sox: The Autographies of 1949, which it's a very interesting compilation of photographs and interviews. I think I can show you that the Advertiser, Boston Traveler did in 49. They approached every player on the roster of the Braves and the Red Sox, and they got them to respond in handwriting to a series of questions, and each one of the forms has a picture of that particular player. In fact, as I think you've written or somebody else has, there's one player of particular note in the Braves, not the Braves, the Red Sox autographies book, Jack E. Robinson, who was a pitcher for the Red Sox, not the player that was told to get off the field in the phony tryout. And I do have extra copies of that. So if anybody contacts me, I can let you know what I might have in inventory. I think there are a couple of other books that we've produced that may be available. The other thing I'll mention to people,
The newsletter. Mention the newsletter.
Yeah, I can send out sample newsletters as well. I mentioned the brazing of the pennant in 48 and then the burning of the tickets. Well, in 2021, we produced a calendar that reproduces both pictures, and I have a pretty good supply of them. I mean, obviously, you don't need a 2021 calendar, but the pictures of the raising of the pennant and the burning of the tickets might be of interest to you, and I'd be happy to mail it out to anyone that would like a copy of that.
Members of the BBHA do get a periodic newsletter, which is packed with information. I am always impressed when the newsletter comes in about how much information there is that is still being developed about this team from so many decades ago.
That's what keeps me going. It's
Yep.
interesting because when I'm writing something, I'm learning. It's not like I'm regurgitating something. I am learning, and I enjoy that.
Francis,
I can
you put
tell
the
you
question.
one other thing in the next newsletter. Len notified us of the passing of a minor leaguer, and this minor leaguer was a teammate of Hank Aaron's on the Eau Claire Bears. And I'm going to write up a brief biography of this gentleman. And I also found a picture of him with the Bears and with Hank Aaron. So again, that was something that I wasn't even, you sometimes you just hit yourself saying, why didn't I know this? And why didn't I get a chance to interview this particular individual? But at least you capture an event, maybe too late, but at least it's captured.
Francis, you want to ask your question out loud?
Yes, I put it in the chat, Bob.
Right.
I was just wondering, are there members of your organization who've attended games at Braves, who attended games at Braves Field, and did you attend any games there?
No, I just missed out. I was a tad too young, but my grandfather and father were fans. Yes, we do have a few members that attended there. They're in their 80s now. Also, we have an individual who did attend and who's the one that who conducts the Braves Field tours for us. He's 79 years old. And he's a wealth of information, and he can locate where home plate used to be, where the dugouts are, and what have you. And we used to conduct these tours, and he's still around. In fact, a Boston University student was doing an article for the student newspaper this year. And he, despite COVID and the pandemic, he went out to Braves Field and gave that young man a tour of the field. And basically, they produced a nice article for, I think it's the Free Press, BU Free Press. But yeah, there still are a few. In fact, the next, again, speaking of the newsletter, the next newsletter, I have a gentleman who's going to do a story of when he went to Braves Field and he got a picture of himself with Willard Marshall. And he's already sent me the picture of himself with Willard Marshall, and he's going to reminisce in this newsletter article about that. So we're still very fortunate. We have a few people who can actually tell us about Braves Field in a hands-on capacity.
Anyone else got a question?
Let's see. I wonder if anybody's going to get into the new 521 overlook seating at Fenway. I don't know.
I did go visit yesterday, as I mentioned. There's
yeah.
the Truly deck is right at the top of the right field bleachers. And then on top of that is the 521 overlook, which is a function room.
Oh,
That's
cool.
600 people, and that's going to be open year round. You can have wedding receptions or corporate events or anything. If that many
SABR
people want to
meeting.
get together in one space, it is amazing overlook on the field. And 521, of course, is the number of home runs Ted Williams hit in his major league career. It also happens to be about 521 feet from home plate, this particular function. But then running underneath that is this Truly deck, which is named after the beverage Truly. And there's a lot of nice seating right there. Again, a fantastic view.
Huh. I didn't know such was going on up in that corner right there.
Yep, it's a whole new area. They put up a new message board too that will be displaying things tomorrow, like
Yeah.
advertisements and statistics.
Well, I think they're really gonna have a lot more information up there on that new scoreboard. I think as you go to the game, you'll see it. Before there was a small scoreboard that had the lineups and the batting orders, and they occasionally would flip the walk-up song, but I think it's going to be much more extensive.
Yeah, it's about double the size of the previous message board, I gather.
Oh yeah. Really good.
Well,
Huh.
well,
Any
after
more
2 o'clock
questions?
tomorrow will be the first game here.
Yeah. Well, they're 500 so far.
Yeah.
A little shaky start, but oh well, that's okay.
So we have another meeting of Boston Sabres, another Zoom session coming up. I don't remember the date now. It's a Thursday, more or less a month from today. And
Yeah.
information will come out about that once we know what to say.
Yeah, yes. Have we checked to see how it meshes with the schedule?
Yeah, it works okay. I checked that.
12. Okay, I think it looks like it's May 12th. We may be targeting. So
We tried to pick Thursday nights because that's an off night.
Right.
And we
Yeah,
tried to work around it. The next one is May 12th. Yeah.
Yeah.
Red Sox are traveling from Atlanta to Texas.
yeah, I know that there's a few subjects and ideas that are brewing. So we'll put it out as soon as we make a decision.
And of course, anybody listening, if you have ideas, you're welcome to
Add
send them
it
in. I know
or-
not everybody here is from the
Yeah.
New England area. Of course,
Doesn't
we've got
matter.
folks from all over, which is
Yeah.
one of the great benefits of these Zoom sessions.
Right, exactly. Yes, yeah, we're always open and we welcome any suggestions or ideas that people may have. And we've had quite a few very interesting meetings over the past few months. And Bob you have added to it. I mean, this was really, really a great presentation and very interesting, and a lot of great stories that you have thrown in with it too. So I really thank you for it. It's just been wonderful.
I appreciate it. And I thank you for giving us the opportunity. And I hope I've stimulated some interest in the Boston.
Absolutely. Yes. Yes, you have.
Don't forget tomorrow, 2 hours and 7 minutes. That was the.
2 hours, 7 minutes. Okay, yeah, right.
Where will we be in 2 hours and 7 minutes tomorrow after the first pitch?
I'll see if I
We
can
could have a
remember
pool.
that.
We could have
Yeah,
a pool, you know? Maybe
2
I should
hours.
offer a pool.
And I'll keep my eye on it. I'll try to even take a picture. How's that? Once, of course, you know, from my rant at the very beginning about this whole infernal thing about these electronic tickets where I don't have anything to add to my scrapbook this time around because it's not a paper ticket. And what, but okay, so I got it at the beginning and at the end, my particular complaint right now. So, so we'll see whether I can get in with my infernal electronic ticket. So stay tuned.
Keep us posted.
Yeah,
I need to know because I don't have a smartphone.
I know. Well, see, this is one of my great complaints about the whole thing. So, it's
I'm
wrong.
gonna stop the recording now, but we can keep talking to the extent we want.